So the Nashville Predators fell 5-2 to the Colorado Avalanche. On today's Locked On Predators, we're going to tell you why the final score shouldn't be the final word. We are going to talk about the captain and look ahead to storylines coming up this week.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everyone. Kicking off a new week here. Thanks for joining us at Locked On Predators. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, we want to kick off our Monday and our week shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders community. These are the folks that hang out and chat with Emma and I during and after games. Also want to welcome any first-time listeners and our everydayers to the show. We appreciate your time and we enjoy talking Nashville Predators hockey with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, Emma, I remember not so long ago, it wasn't 84 years, when we got to talk about Nashville Predators playing an amazing game and beating the Dallas Stars on the road. Those were the good old days. Today, we're going to talk about the Nashville Predators playing a good game on the road, but coming up short. They lost Saturday night 5-2 to the Colorado Avalanche. We're going to give you our measured reaction. We're going to talk about things that were not true last week. We're going to talk about some of the rumors that kicked in at the end of last week regarding Juuso Parssinen. And we're also going to tell you what are we looking ahead to this week. Before we dive into all of that on this Monday morning, we do want to let you know today's episode's brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, Emma, we had a lot of fun after that Dallas game, didn't we?
We did.
It was so
We deserve that.
We deserve that. And look, Emma and I talked about coming on the show and just raging about this Predators team. Raging, righteous indignation. Fire the coach. Barry Trotz needs to go. Roman Josi sucks as a captain. But frankly, A, ain't nobody got time for that. And B, that's all just not where we're at. So if you want to rage about the Predators, there's a whole comment section. You are welcome to do that. And of course, let us know how you're feeling. But Emma and I are going to give you our measured response to this Colorado game. Again, the final score 5-2. But Emma, look, if you are just scrolling through scores and you see 5-2, this is what I would think. Man, those Nashville Predators cannot get their poop together. And while the Nashville Predators don't have their poop together in the win-loss column, this was not a game that I felt looked like they didn't have it together. So we always, of course, kick off our recaps with one word to describe the game. So Emma, if you had to describe the Colorado game Saturday night in one word, what would it be and why?
I'm going to go with control, because I thought that the Predators looked like they were in control. The first period, they actually controlled the pace of the game. And even the rest of it, they were in control of themselves and in their own play. And I think that that's something that we had seen with this team earlier in the year, that they just did not look like they were in control of anything. Like, they just looked like they had never met before. Half of them had never played hockey before, and it was just a mess. And now it's like, okay, it didn't look like a mess. They actually played, I thought, on the whole, very, very well. And sometimes you are going to run into a hot goalie, which they absolutely did in Mackenzie Blackwood in his debut for the Avalanche. He was incredible.
Dude,
nothing getting past him.
Even just outside observation, I have to tell you, I found myself at moments going, damn.
Yeah.
Damn,
so
Mackenzie Blackwood.
you are going to run into a hot goalie every once in a while. And I understand Predators fans do not want to hear that. They don't want excuses, but that's the reality of an 82 game season. It's going to happen. And so there's that. But then there's also like, I think that game shows how thin the margins for error are, just
Mhm.
how tiny they are, because again, the overall play of the Predators actually quite good. And if you look at the underlying stats like scoring chances and
Oh.
things like that, they were actually very evenly matched, the two teams, like very neck and neck really through the whole game. So that's promising to see that they could hang with a team like Colorado. But unfortunately, to me, it's two moments in the game that really kind of, you know, just kind of put the nail in the coffin. Number one, I hate to say it, but
I know. I
really,
know.
really costly defensive zone turnover by our good friend Mark Del
Yeah.
Gaizo. Just, he had a chance to clear the puck. Instead, he tried to make the play. It was not the right move. That was Ross Colton, I think, or no,
Yes.
Colton had just
No,
scored.
it was
McKinnon.
wasn't it was it McKinnon or Lankinen? It was one
I
of them that,
I
that
think it
were
was
harassing
McKinnon.
him.
Anyway, it was unfortunate. And so that was one. And then, you talked about how the final score not necessarily indicative of the game, 5-2, really more like 3-2 because there were
Mhm.
two empty net goals. I thought the timing of when you're in a close game like that, it's 3-2. You assume that the Predators are going to pull the goalie in the final couple minutes. Fine.
Mhm.
But the timing that they chose to do that was rather interesting because the Predators had not fully cleared the puck yet, and they didn't have control of the puck at the
Right.
moment. So it's like, why would you choose that moment to pull your
Yeah.
goalie? But and then we saw what happened. So it's, again, the overall play of the team does not, discount those bad things and those miscues that happen, because
Mhm.
obviously the final result is the final result, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. But I didn't leave that game feeling discouraged. I felt like,
No.
honestly, this team, they hung with Colorado really, really well. And quite honestly, I think if they had a less hot version of Mackenzie Blackwood,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
we might be having a different conversation right now.
I agree with you. I think, for one, you have to remember this was Mackenzie Blackwood's debut with Colorado, and Colorado completely revamped their goaltending situation. As we know, welcome to the fold, Juice Deuce. But they pulled the plug on Georgiev, and they got Mackenzie Blackwood, and this is the guy that, one of the guys that they're going to go all in on. They want to make a cup run, and they knew they had to do something about goaltending. And if you're Mackenzie Blackwood, you were coming out in your mask that don't match your outfit, and you are coming out there and you are going to show this team, I am going to be the answer to your prayers. And he was phenomenal. Not to say that UC Saros wasn't great too. UC Saros, I think, had a great game, but Mackenzie Blackwood just was there to make a statement, not just to the Avalanche players, but to that fan base. And I will say the fan base, mad respect. They really liked what they were seeing out of Mackenzie Blackwood. I think that they've suffered through goaltending for far too long. We, of course, always ask our Locked On Predators insiders for their one word after a game. Let's see. Lee's one word: mulligan. 40 shots, gave them hell. Hats off to Blackwood. And he says he doesn't really necessarily feel any different about what's going on with this team. Tanner said, unlucky. Blackwood had no business putting on a performance like that. Seriously, Mackenzie. Benjamin's one word: effort. And this is what I will say. I think not only did Nashville hang well with the Colorado Avalanche, I think Nashville frustrated and complicated things, and it wasn't like they were like, hey, we can keep up. They were interrupting Colorado's game plan. They
They
were
made it
making this.
challenging. They
They
made it
did.
challenging for them.
They really did. And I think, look, this team, is a disappointment. This record is a disappointment. But this is where we are. And es ish vs ish. It is what it is. And so you have to really be able to step back from expectations and look at what you are seeing on the ice. And I think if you can rationally do that, there's no way you walk away from this Avalanche game going, man, these Predators suck. They don't.
Yeah. And look, you even
They
saw
have.
yes, they have for
They have.
sure. But the team that we saw against the Avalanche was not the team that we saw earlier in the season. And I mean that in a very good way, because you even saw the signs of life at the end there. I mean, they were down 3-0 early in the third period. And that's where you kind of think, all right, well,
we know how this goes.
We've seen this before. And so then, you get the goal from Steven Stamkos and you think, okay, well, hey, at least it's not a shutout. And then you get another very nice goal from Luke Evangelista. And it's like, oh, all right, this is a 1-goal game. This just got
interesting.
And we're not used to like watching any with the Predators entering the third period, or not long after the start of the third period, or down 3-0. We are not used to interesting at that point. That is typically where we lose interest. And and then it became very interesting all of a sudden. And then again, of course, the 2 empty net goals, yes, they count on the score sheet, but like, again, I don't think that it wasn't some like late game implosion by the Predators. It was just like, hey, they actually made it really close. They made Colorado sweat
They sure did.
Especially in that third period. So again, good to see. Like you said, it was 40 shots, 39. Yeah,
40 shots.
40 shots. I mean, they peppered Blackwood throughout the entire game. And so that's why, again, I need to give him his flowers, because he absolutely deserves them. Because they did not make it easy.
Yeah, that was a great performance, unfortunately, by Mackenzie Blackwood. But also, look, folks, that was a solid performance by the Nashville Predators. Coming up, we are going to talk about the one player who was not back on the ice, one of the players not back on the ice. More than one was out of the lineup. We're going to talk about some of the takes regarding Roman Josi. We're also going to talk about what Elliotte Friedman had to say about potentially moving on from Juuso Parssinen. All that's coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Look, Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means that when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. And friends, we know experiences oftentimes make the perfect gift. Well, Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to get tickets for those live events, for sports, music, theater, and comedy. They have this great feature. It's called Game Time Picks, and it's going to make getting tickets to that special gift-giving event even easier. Game Time Picks is going to filter out all of the fluff. It's going to show you great deals on great seats, so you're not going to spend a ton of time shopping through thousands and thousands of ticket options. You can also get a view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you are giving. Game Time has a low price guarantee, and they have the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So give a great gift and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNHL, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. All right, Emma, some interesting news from morning skate in Colorado. Jeremy Lauzon, who has missed several games with lower body injury, and Roman Josi both skated yesterday morning with the team, which made you think, okay, maybe they are closer than we thought. I think Ryan O'Reilly popped back in the lineup. I was like, oh, he's back. But again, Ryan O'Reilly would gnaw his leg off from a bear trap to play hockey. So this is just what we have with Ryan O'Reilly. And certainly I do not want anyone to go, yeah, but Roman Josi will sit out injured. Look, y'all, here's the segment where we go, knock it the F off. Okay. And we say it with love. But It's been really interesting, Emma. Look, social media, it's not a super great landscape. I don't know if you all have been out there, but being a woman in sports on the social media landscape, not that great. Not that great. It's a little bit like Alderaan from Star Wars right before it explodes. But one of the takes that we have seen, and one of the criticisms of this team, even before his injury, was that Roman Josi is not the right captain for this team. He's not the captain we need. He's not captain material. And then when Roman Josi got injured and the team rallied and beat Dallas, then we had the Sherlock Holmes going, ha ha, look, Roman Josi is not a good captain. This team is better without Roman Josi. I don't know why we're going to take time to address this, but you know what? It's Monday. So let's just clear the air and start the week off fresh. Look, y'all, don't come after Roman Josi. And we're not saying this for any personal reasons other than we cover hockey. And we see lots of hockey teams and we see lots of captains. And every captain is a little bit different. Every captain that the Predators have had a little bit different. But I find it remarkable that people have somehow attached this team's struggles to the leadership of Roman Josi. Because I will say this, Emma, I don't know that there are many locker rooms that you could bring in like a Steven Stamkos, who is a former captain of a Stanley Cup winning team, and know that there aren't going to be conflicts between leadership and leadership style. You can bring Steven Stamkos into this locker room with Roman Josi, and Roman Josi will welcome his input, not because Roman Josi is lost as a captain and needs it, but because he is secure and because he knows how to lead this team. So just in general, I want to address the fact that let's stop with this. But Emma, when you hear people say, ha ha, the team is better against Dallas and against Colorado when Roman Josi is out of the lineup, therefore Roman Josi is part of the problem. I mean, I hate to even ask you to expend oxygen on it, but go for it.
Well, yes, I've heard that too. And I think it's a lazy analysis of things that have happened. It comes down to, what we've talked about before. It's like, well, there's nothing else it could possibly be, so it must be that. And it's like, come on. I think, look, Roman Josi does not lead with a heavy hand. And there are lots of leaders to do that. I remember when I was in college, I got to interview for the student newspaper. I got to interview like legendary NFL coach Tony Dungy. And he talked a lot about quiet leadership, and that's his style. He's not a big, gregarious, loud guy, but he, there are different kinds of leadership. And for certain people, it's like if you ask Roman Josi to be a big, loud, angry leader, that's like, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole, and it just doesn't really work, and you're not going to get an effective leadership out of him. But I think, in response, I would say a couple things. Number one, when it comes to the, oh my gosh, they won without him, they're better without him. To me, that is a sign of strong leadership, because the mark of a good leader should be that if that leader takes a step back or has to step away, things don't completely fall apart. And that is what we saw. It's like like I said before, it's the Austin Matthews effect. They rally around and they're like, we're going to do it. Maybe not necessarily, let's do it for Roman, but it's like he has put us in this place, and like we know that how much he's led by example and, helped carry this team offensively for a while. And now, like we owe it to him. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the coaching staff. I think to me, that's a sign of really good leadership, is that when your leader is absent, the ship doesn't sink, everything stays afloat and it's fine. And I think that also, I think sometimes like outward facing people put a little bit too much emphasis on the whole captain situation, like what it means and what that label means. And I don't mean to discount Roman Josi and his importance in this locker room, his leadership, his presence, but it really is like you mentioned, he takes input from others, and it really is a leadership by committee. I mean, the formal leadership group is Roman Josi, and then your alternate captains are Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly. And so those three really lead the room very, very well as a collective. When Yosi's been out, Stamkos has worn the A. And so he's also, I would say, like an informal like leader in this room. I would add Colton Sissons in there. He's always part of that, that kind of unofficial leadership group.
Absolutely.
And so the thing is that it's not like one guy, and that's kind of what's nice about Roman's leadership. He's not the one who's going to be like, quiet, I'm speaking, like he accepts.
Can you imagine?
I literally can't imagine that.
I cannot.
I would be so concerned. I mean, like, is he okay? But I think that that's the thing, is like he allows other voices to come in, and it doesn't lead to a like, an inconsistency in messaging or anything like that. I think it's just like, again, I think that people put, and understandably, when the team is struggling, it's, oh, he's a bad captain. But when the team does really, really well, not that we've seen that much this year, but let's just say, like last year, 18 game point streak. No one was out there saying, wow, Roman Josi, such a good captain.
What a captain, man. Without that captain, this team could never.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's a fair assessment of the influence of the captain situation. But I also just, like I said, going back to the Tony Dungy thing, quiet leadership is sometimes just as effective, and everyone has their own style. And Roman is not going to be the heavy hand. And so again, like you have said in the past, Anne, there's plenty of things to be mad about with this team. And they're all valid. They're all very reasonable things we should be mad at. But let's not go looking for more things to be mad about that really don't matter.
There is plenty of meat on this bone that we can chew on about why this team has not performed up to or even remotely in the ballpark of expectations. Roman Josi as a leader is just not one of them. No. Coming up, we are going to address Elliotte Friedman. Look at you out there saying the things and getting the people worked up. We're going to talk about what Elliotte Friedman mentioned at the end of last week about Juuso Parssinen. We're also going to look at the storylines coming up this week. Get ready to tackle some NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it is all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, and it's all going to be right there on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money can help you find subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice. Rocket Money makes it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it is subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and they have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. One of those best features is that subscription tracker. You can use it to cancel services that you aren't using for, services you forgot you signed up for, and you're going to save a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, you're going to be able to automatically set aside money for your future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. Again, that is rocketmoney.com/locked on. Check out all their services and features at rocketmoney.com/locked on. All right, Emma, we're just going to just tiptoe on this one real quick because I think, we'll wait and see if something were to happen and we'll dive into it deeper. But our good friend, Elliotte Friedman, Elliotte Friedman out there talking about all these 32 things. Elliotte Friedman talking about 32 things. And he mentioned that there is a chance that the Nashville Predators are looking to move on from forward Juuso Parssinen. Emma, this just brings up the phrase fart in church for me. Like, that is how well this would go over, I think. Right now, the Nashville Predators are, of course, kind of weathering the PR of the Phil Tomasino move, of course, Dante Fabro on waivers. The minute that those guys smile at their other team, the righteous indignation wave rolls through, and it becomes just a thing. When you look at Juuso Parssinen, this is a tricky one for me because he hasn't really found his place. He is kind of the healthy scratch right now with the team. You can't place him on waivers or we're going to have another Dante Fabro incident. But what do you do with him? Because here's what I will say. I understand he's a 7th round pick, but I don't think he is, quote unquote, a 7th round pick. I think part of the reason he fell that far is he had an injury that, kind of scared some people off. But this is somebody, when I look at Juuso Parssinen, this is a player that I know he's a tricky fit, but he's got size, he's got strength, he's got skill. What do the Predators need to do to kind of figure out how to use Juuso Parssinen? And are you concerned about him being another piece that's moved?
I think, well, first of all, I have long been a big fan of Juuso Parssinen. From when, got to sort of witness his foray into the NHL. His debut season was my first season working for the team, and just really a really big fan of this kid's work ethic and the way he plays the game. And I think that he is one that it's unfortunate because we saw that flash of brilliance, scored a goal in his first NHL game and then had that really strong rookie season. And then, of course, even that, he was sidelined with an injury for a bit of that. So he didn't, he missed maybe a month or two in the second half of that season. But, really promising. You think, okay, all right, they might have struck gold here in the 7th round. And then he comes back last season for his sophomore season, and it was really kind of like the epitome of a sophomore slump, it felt like. And it was like, all right, we came back down to earth a little bit with this guy. Like, he's maybe not quite there. Goes back to the AHL, it, does fine there, gets called back up the end of the year. But again, it was just kind of like, well, it takes the wind out of your sails a little bit because you think like, all right, maybe he's not quite the gem we thought he was. But still think, like you mentioned, he has size, he has strength. He profiles as like a power forward, a true power forward. But I think what we may have thought 2 years ago, which was that, oh my God, we found a top 6 power forward in the 7th round of the draft. I think now last year we were like, okay, so maybe he's more of a bottom 6 guy, but that's okay. Like, that's okay. He still does a lot of things really well. And then, last year he missed most of training camp with an injury. And this year he's been in and out of the lineup. And it's just unfortunate because given the way that these things have gone, like you mentioned, Tomasino, Fabro, etc., Parssinen had kind of found himself in the same category as those two guys in that they were not regulars in the lineup. For whatever reason, they had sort of fallen out of favor with this, this team. And not to say that they'd done anything bad or there had been any kind of falling out. It's just
they just found themselves outside of the lineup.
Yeah, they were on the outside looking in. Yeah. And we've seen how that's gone. So when it comes to, am I concerned that they move on from him? I think it depends on your definition of concern, because I, for one, would not be the least bit surprised at this point, just with the way things have gone.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if they did. Especially he's got a very easy contract to move. It's 1 year, $775, very easy for any team to take that on. Any team looking for depth, especially, a team trying to make a run at a playoff spot. But at the same time, because he's going to be relatively cheap to acquire in terms of assets, you got to wonder what kind of return are the Predators even going to get for him if they did move on from him. And so that's not to say that they shouldn't look around at that, but I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. It would disappoint me because I had really high hopes for him. And still do. I still do. But I think that it, with the way things have gone, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I think because he has a couple of different dimensions to his game, and that's not at all implying that other players don't. But I think I think it feels like the team has felt like they have to choose one or the other, because one aspect of his game makes him good for this particular role. The other aspect of his game might make him better at this, in this particular role. And I think that they've had a hard time finding the place in the lineup and the line mates for him that let him be kind of both and get comfortable in the NHL being both. So yeah, this is another one where I'm like, okay, let's see what happens here. I love this kid. I really like his game. I understand that it may take a little bit more effort to find his place. But it's one of those players I'm like, I really hope Nashville's, takes the time to sort out. Looking ahead, we are going to see a couple of the guys that Nashville didn't they just weren't able to sort out. Looking ahead this week, of course, Nashville is going to be on a 4-game homestand leading up to Christmas. And one of those games, Emma and I are mostly hoping that we get Smiley cookies, but we will see the return of Phil Tomasino to Bridgestone Arena this week. Later on, Pittsburgh comes to town. What do you anticipate from that? Because besides Smiley cookies, Phil Tomasino.
Phil Tomasino and Cody Glass. Thank you very much.
And Cody Glass. Could we just?
It's gonna be it's gonna be an emotional night. Those are two fan favorites. Not
wonderful.
Not just here at the Locked On Predators podcast, but just in Preds
in general.
In Preds land, those two guys are beloved. And they are doing well. They appear to be doing very well with their new teams. And so I am expecting that the Penguins are kind of
Who are they?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. They are an enigma. It's like, what is this team? And I mean, to be fair, the Nashville Predators this year have been an enigma as well, but sort of in the opposite way, because it's like the Predators, everyone coming in, expectations, oh my God, they're going to be amazing. And they're the worst team in the NHL. So it's like, that's weird. But you look at Pittsburgh and it's like, okay, you saw what they were trying to do, kind of re-sign that veteran core with Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and just kind of give it one last go with those guys because they're all kind of in the twilight of their career. Not that Sidney Crosby will ever be in the twilight of his career, but age-wise, he is. And so I think that, you saw what they were trying to do, but then it's like they didn't quite surround those guys with a strong enough team to bolster them and help them win one more time. And so it's like you're basically not just re-signing those guys, but it's like, okay, but now you guys have to go do all the work.
Yeah.
Because
Go
we
get
don't
her
have
done.
anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's not really fair either. And so it's a little bit of you get to the point where you think like, all right, well, that it was a nice thought, but it's not going to happen, especially this year. Like this Penguins team is just not good. And, it's not a playoff team, not a winning team. And then they go and they had a 9-2 game the other night. They had one of those
Seriously?
where
Yes.
they won. They won. I mean, Nashville, we don't know what that's like. We've been on the other end of that, but
Yeah, we remember that.
yeah, no, they went out and beat the Montreal Canadiens 9-2.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, are they good? Or is this a playoff team?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
no disrespect to the Canadiens, but they are, one of the bottom 3 teams in the East right now. But again, Preds made them look pretty good. So I just think that Pittsburgh is a tricky one because you don't know what you're going to get.
Yes.
And I would say what's impressive about that 9-2 game in particular, 9 goals, not a single one of them scored by Crosby or Malkin.
Isn't that
And
crazy?
that is when you're like, oh crap, maybe they did build a good team around these guys and we're just now seeing it.
Yeah.
So definitely, they've got some guys, beyond their top guys. You kind of look through that lineup and you're like, who? But guys have kind of had some, career renaissances there. Good friend of the Preds, Anthony Beauvillier, was here for a cup of coffee last year. He's been killing it in Pittsburgh.
Living his best life in the Berg, y'all.
Yeah.
Best life.
So it must be the smiley cookies.
It is. Oh my gosh. So, that's just one of the storylines. Of course, the Rangers are coming. Former coach Peter Laviolette, his seat is allegedly a little bit toasty. So that's one of those storylines coming up too. So there's a lot to look forward to this week with the Nashville Predators. A lot of interesting storylines. Again, mostly Emma and I want those Eden Park smiley cookies, Phil Thomas, and Cody Glass. But we're really excited to see you guys too. Just should probably have put that out there first. We will, of course, be covering all of these games. We're going to give you game preview tomorrow with the Rangers coming to town. What do the Predators need to do to get back in the win column? I feel a lot better about this 4-game homestand, Emma, after seeing what they did in Dallas and seeing what they did in Colorado over the weekend. We'll see, what they can do against the Rangers. We'll again preview that tomorrow and bring you the game recaps, game previews, get you all ready for what could be an interesting 4-game homestand for this Predators team. Before we sign off today, though, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. I do want to give a shout out real quick, Emma, to the commenter on Friday's episode who translated Hold My Beer into Finnish for us. Y'all.
This is helpful information.
This is the stuff we need. This is the information we need. So I just wanted to shout out our Finnish friends for teaching us the things, all of the things. So that is going to do it for this Monday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much, y'all, for making us your first listen of the day and of the week. We hope you go out there and you have a fantastic Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.